All right, well, we are here with the Chris Medellin Show podcast, and I'm here with my man, the lending giant, Bryce Fransen. Bryce, welcome to the show today, man.
Thanks, brother. Super excited. Appreciate you having me on.
So, we're crossing into a territory now where I'm recognizing people by their handles. And it's so funny because you and I knew each other, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But we knew each other from working at the same company, and you worked in a different part of the company, and we through social media had become friends, but I never knew your name. And so you called me one day, and you had left the company and you were coming back, and I had to write your offer. But you and I had been talking this entire time, and I'm like, I don't know his name. and I'm writing the offer, and I actually put the lending giant. And I think we even put that we made sure that we were like using your handle because it is so recognizable. But here's why I wanted you to come on the show. So first off, it means a lot to me that you took time to do this. But to give people an idea and the audience an idea who you are, you're a loan officer at Loan Depot. You've been in mortgage since 2017. You came into the industry from the financial services. You did several things there. I think at one point you were a teller, which in my opinion is one of the hardest jobs in financial services. And kind of coming into your own brand and building it right before my eyes. You and I didn't even work in the same city. You were living in Northern California. You just recently, like last week, moved to Arizona officially. You're about to get married. Man, what I would give to be in your shoes right now, starting my career right now in this time, in the craziest of crazy industries at a time where, right now, what are we in? Today's date is Friday, August 26th. And the market's a bit of a shit show. I mean, it's crazy. And So yeah, like I said, thank you for being here. I got to tell a quick story about you to the audience to give a little bit of scale and a little bit of insight of you and I working together. So there's an event that happens. It's the second time it's happened. I went to the first one. You went to the second one with me, called the Forward event. So Neil, if you ever listen to this, shout out to Neil Home. But we had done this event, and this year was crazy busy. Like there was people everywhere. So it was as if my Instagram and my LinkedIn and my TikToks had exploded in Vegas, and there was everybody that I had been following. And, you're kind of walking around getting to know everybody. So I had run into these two girls who they work for Ryan Serhant. And I had met them earlier, and they said they were branding experts. And so I made a joke to them, and I don't think you were standing there at this time, but I made a joke to them like, oh, you should hit me up because I love spending money on stupid stuff like this, right? And by the way, I've hired one of them since then. I just signed a contract this week from that conversation. But then later, you and I are talking, and if anybody knows Bryce or has seen Bryce, the lending giant, and we'll post a picture of this, but how tall are you?
6'9".
6'9". I'm 5'6". My wife will argue with me that I'm not 5'6", but I am 5'6". Every bit of it, I will take it. And so you and I standing together is kind of funny. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins. It's the funniest thing. But so we're standing there talking, and these two girls are kind of hovering, and I'm thinking to myself, they're here to ask me about, like, they're going to do they want to do a deal with, talk to me about this branding stuff. And so there's a break in you and I talking, and they step up and they're like, can we get a picture with you? And they're looking at you, and I'm just like, I thought you were here for me because I'm an asshole, and they're here to get a picture with you. And it hit me at that moment what you had created, and it is really remarkable to watch right before my eyes. I remember you and I being on a call where you were talking about, like, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. We didn't work together. You were working in a different part of the company, and I was like, you got to build. What are you trying to build? Build a name around it. And I can't remember this before or after that, but then I saw it come out, and then you've created this this brand of the lending giant that everyone knows. And I saw this firsthand in Vegas. You would be walking and you would be stopped over and over and over for people to get a picture with you. But one thing I kept hearing over and over is, you work with Bryce, you work with Bryce, you work with Bryce. Like, that guy is the nicest. We're friends. I asked you to talk to a loan officer one time, and every time she calls me, somebody I was recruiting, she's like, where's Bryce at? Like, you just have this thing about you that people love. And so you're on the upswing. And remember me saying this because I am lucky to have you on the podcast, because this is so early in your career that 5 years from now, you won't have time to do this with me. You will charge me to do this with me, right? So I see it. I'm looking into the future, and I'm excited that we're here today. So tell me, man, I mean, what has it been like to come back, to Loan Depot, and what has it been like to build your brand the way that you have?
Dang, man, I don't know if I can follow up with that introduction, brother. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, dude. I'm watching it, dude. This is why I'm so excited that you're here, because you have built something pretty darn amazing, and it has to do with the fact that you're lending's nice guy. You're approachable. You're working DMs like nobody I've seen, and I can learn from that, which is why I wanted you to come in, because I'm so bad at that.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, appreciate it, man. It's just I think the intent, I was in financial services, started as a teller, kind of all the way up through business banking, investment, and worked in the wealth management space and did all this stuff where I thought, well, once I got into mortgage, figured, well, all this experience could just provide other people the most holistic opportunity possible, right? And so that was a big factor for me. I always wanted to be a transparent, communicative, person in my business, and I think it was July 2020 when I joined the first time. And I remember coming on board, loving the technology, all the systems, and it was the pandemic was 3-4 months in, right? So everyone was like crazy. People were telling me left and right, they're like, don't come over. We don't have jumbo. We don't have this, we don't have that. And I was like, you know what? Where I was at the time just was not the right place. And I said, where am I going to go? Because I had mentors all the way up to that point.
Okay.
And some of them, one of them was my best man, and one of them I'm still really, really close with. And so knowing that there were people that were always available to be there for me. And I never wanted to be someone that just did what I had to do for that job. Like when I was a teller, I was doing the banker job. When I was a banker, I was doing the assistant manager. I was always doing 1 or 2 levels above me, because I always wanted to know who's got results in an area and decide if I want to go down that area.
Absolutely. So, and in my opinion, that's leadership. I mean, I remember doing the same things. Like, what does my boss do every day? And, how does he react to certain things? And I would just watch and observe and try to learn. And in fact, that's how I learned Excel. Like I know Excel so well because I had a boss that I would go in early and watch him do his reports on Excel and have to so I learned so much about that, but that's such a good trait to have. And I watch you with it as, I've pulled you in with a lot of recruiting situations where, people who have been at a broker or thinking about going to a broker, and you give them an opportunity to say, here's the pros and cons of both sides. But I think that skill set is huge about your personality. So yeah, keep going, man. No,
I mean, I think it's always been that. I mean, and I've, it's not like it's been a cushy ride. I mean, I'm 30. And so I started in financial services at 19. 2 semesters career college, just community college down in Santa Cruz where I grew up. And I was just like, I don't think it's for me. And so my parents were just like, hey, we're here to support kind of whatever's right. So I'm 18, I move out on my own, think I know everything. And so I took that route where I was like, I'm going to go earn it. I remember at one point in my time, I think I was 19, I had made some good money. Then I had gone through my first relationship per se. And I lived in my car for 2 months because I made decisions that put me there. And I think that was the one thing, is I was always willing to learn from those experiences. And so, I've been really, really low, and by no decision other than myself. It wasn't external, it wasn't the economy, it wasn't the administration, it wasn't anything going on external except for the decisions that you made.
Gotcha.
And so I think there's so much that you can learn from being different places. And, I think being nice, like what's my other option? I don't want to be a dick. Like, I think everyone's going through something. So I always try to be there for that person. And again, you can be someone for somebody whenever you need to. And actually, I remember I'm talking to a friend who's a realtor back in the Bay Area. I'm like, hey, I'll be back in mid-May or mid-September. You know, let's connect. And she literally mentioned, she said, hey, you know, I have 2 messages you sent me pinned in my Instagram. And it was literally, I said, I don't even remember what they are, but I just sent her a message and said, hey, you're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, appreciate it. And she's kept that. And she's like, I listen to them every couple of days.
Well, this is strange to me because, or maybe it's not strange, but it's interesting to me in the sense of you've created a brand on being nice. And I don't think you've realized it. I don't think if, you know, I was giving somebody some feedback the other day and they asked me the question, like, what would I do differently if I can do it all over? And my response was, I wish that I had built and on a whiteboard, if you will, my values and then built a brand around that.
Yeah.
And then built content around that.
Yeah.
And I did it all backwards. I kind of figured out content first, just kind of throwing stuff against the wall, see where it worked, where it didn't. And then backed in. And finally, like 4 years later, I figured out what my voice was.
Right.
But you just have been like nice and engaging, and to the point that you look for ways to lift people up. I see this in our meetings when we do manager meeting or when we do meetings with the loan officers. You'll jump in and always offer some level of inspiration to the team of something that you've gone through. So what's interesting to me is that you said you've been at times where you're down. But which is weird is you go through your life trying to lift people up. And even then you have been down. How do you work yourself out of those times when you're down? What's the anecdote? What is the one thing that you can go to when you're down and say, this is a playbook of when I'm down that I got to do to get out of it?
No, I think when you're down, some of the biggest things I've learned about my personal self is that I legitimately, my cup gets filled when I help other people. Okay. And so when I'm giving to people, when I'm able to provide that, and I think that's why, I was promoted very quickly. By the time I was 26, I was managing a $700 million financial center, right? So like, I think the idea with that was, I just want to take, if you're in A and you want to get to D, like how do we help you get there as soon as possible? Absolutely. So for me, when I'm down, one, I reach out to people that have results in what I'm trying to not be down in. Okay. Two, I surround myself with the right people that have the mentality, that have the physical, that have everything, that they're trying to be better every single day in any capacity. And honestly, I have done that immensely by rejoining and coming back to your region. Honestly, like the people here, there is somebody better in every aspect of life, in business, in something. There's some aspect somebody is better than me.
Interesting. Okay.
And then number 3, in regards to me, it's just doing the activities. Like pick up the phone, make the post. When you're the most scared to make that call, when you're the most scared to hit the post button, that's when you need to freaking make those posts. That's when you need to make those calls.
So true.
So I think that's a big thing for me when you're down. And I remember we talked just a few months ago, 2 months ago, I don't remember. And I was in a rut and we hit this wall, the market shifted immediately and it was like, why? And I went through that mentality of, I'm too damn good to be this right now. I legitimately believe I'm one of the best loan officers there are. Now that can become cocky, but I think in the end that comes from competence, comes from experience. Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things is, why is my business slowing down? Why is there a shift here? Why is there a shift there? Now, I'm not. What did we talk about that day? I mean, you can go back to that day because I remember it. Yeah. But what were some of the things that I told you that I think you needed to do? And then how did you respond to that? And then what was the outcome? Yeah. So it's actually still saved in my email. I have the inbox. It's like red flagged. So I can go back to it every time to remind myself. The biggest thing we talked about was one, mentality. And I think it was, I think we were speaking within the week of me saying, hey, I'm going to reach out to people. So I reached out to loan officers that are still making over $1 million a year. What are you doing? Reached out to loan officers still like in our team, even internal and external. Yep. You're still putting on 15, 20, 30 deals a month. Like, how are you providing that much value that you're getting that much back? Absolutely. And so for us, it was, you gave me an activity. You said, hey, let's do these 5. These are the 5 things that are you doing what you should be doing or know what you want to be doing in your business? I looked at all 5 and there was one of them I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. The other 4, I'm not. And so started doing those, got really granular on those details and what I'm trying to do, the activities and so forth. And then just did them. That was it. Like when you do the activities, and right now it's a lot of activity, and that result is going to come in 90 days.
Absolutely. It's what you put in today.
Yeah, you're not going to see it today. And I think that's the biggest thing right now, because I mean, I've had to have a conversation with Lauren. Like, hey, like once we get settled, like let's get moved, and I'm going to probably be doing 7 days a week, some way, form, or which, and that means Monday through Friday doing what I do, my calls, my outreach, my connections, and like being there for people. I mean, Saturdays, being the person I want to be in my community. Like, I want to be the guy.
Well, you say that with such confidence and such, almost like it's obvious, but it isn't. We're going into we're living in a recession today. And then on top of that, our business has completely just half of it is out the door. It's gone. Right? Yep. And every day that goes by, we're trying to understand what the floor is going to be. And some days we're up and some days we're down with regards to business and serving people. And if I had to paint the landscape, 3 months ago, if a house went on the market, it would vanish. Like, and there were houses that wouldn't even get a sign in the front of it because they didn't have to. There was a line of people that wanted to get that house. Yep. And today, there was a house that listed across the street from me and 2 weeks ago, there was a line out the door to get people into the open house. They haven't gotten an offer on it because they want too much for it. And so the market's trying to figure itself out. Yeah. And so we're somewhat in a market paralysis. There's people that are not, pulling the trigger, and people that you pre-qualified months ago, the rates have skyrocketed. They're either they can't afford it anymore, they can't afford the kind of house that they want anymore, or they're just mentally sidelined. And so when you look at our business, you're saying to your wife, I need to put in massive amount of effort into this job to get the output that I want. And not everybody's going to do that. And there are people that will, it's Friday, right? Today we're doing this at Friday at noon. And I would bet that when I walk out the door at 6:00 tonight, that I will be the last person in this office, right? Because that's usually how it is on a Friday. And that's usually when I can get things done. And then tomorrow morning, maybe 3 people will go out and hit open houses in my entire region. Maybe. Right. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think that's a good, and you'll be one of them. But that's the difference in growth. And that's the difference in understanding the market we're in and understanding that in order to win, you're willing to do what the next person isn't willing to do. And it's outperforming, out marketing, out everything. And so I love that you're doing that. And you're saying it like, well, it's kind of obvious that we got to do this, but it's not. It's not for a lot of people, which is why I wanted to do this with you, because if we can inspire a loan officer that thinks it's okay to sit back on the weekend and chill, then that's cool. You're just not going to get the results that you want. 100%. And so you're going to have to push harder than ever. And that's what it's all about, man. I mean, I think that that's where your success is going to come. It's why I wanted to talk to you. So let me shift gears on you for a second. You started seeing, me and a few people that I work with posting a lot of stuff, and somehow that caught your attention, and then you leaned into it. And I would say your content has surpassed what I'm even doing. And you've tested so many things. And I remember like, dude, just get with you. I remember I was going to send, I think our conversation was, I was about to send you some podcast equipment. And I was like, why are you wanting to do podcasts? Why don't you just do just do 1 minute easy peasy videos, and let's see what that, and it's created this entire different brand for you. So how is it working for you, and how is that coming along?
Yeah, no, I remember. And actually the first time we spoke, I want to say it was end of 2020. And it was, I just saw you were an area manager at the time. And it was just like, hey, you're doing some of the stuff that no one else is doing. So I realized that I wanted to do what no one else was doing. For me, honestly, that Ford event really showed how important branding is, because there were dozens of people that would come up, just like you said, hey, you're the lending giant, right? And I'm like, who are you? Like, what the hell is going on here?
You might have been thinking that, but there's no way you acted like that, because
No.
you are the nicest guy. You were like, you took pictures with so many people. It's crazy.
It was awesome. I mean, to me, it really showcased the brand of, and I think nice is true. And my in-laws, even my parents are like, dude, like if you can't get along with Bryce, you can't get along with anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm me, and I'm learning to be more just me in general. And we can all have that, asshole streak, to be honest. But at the same time, I think the main thing is the brand takes it to where I can call 20 people a day. Mm-hmm. The brand takes it to where I can post that exact same conversation I'm going to have with 20 people, and it'll hit 2,000.
Yes.
It'll hit 20,000.
Yes.
Now, I've only had a couple videos go like, quote, quote, viral,
yes.
50,000 plus views. But what I've noticed, especially when you're starting to put out content around the topics of what's going on today,
yes.
around the topics of what people are actually legitimately questioning, then there's a lot of engagement.
Yes.
And so even if some of those videos they only get 1,200 views, 800 views.
But that's free.
But that's free marketing.
Yeah. Yes.
And two, you go into your insights on especially Instagram.
Yeah.
I did a video this morning. I looked at it. I was like, dude, I had 62 shares. I'm like, 62. Yeah, all we did was talk about credit scores.
Crazy.
So for us, this is stuff we live in, day out.
So what shares are, when someone sees your content and they share it with someone they know, because they're like, you need to know this information.
Yeah, right? Either to someone else directly or their own storyline.
So you have taken your content to a follower that might not have followed you before. You've gotten into their headspace because a relative, a mom or somebody's like, hey, you need to see this.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow your audience. But it's all from starting from one decision to turn your camera in front of you and hit record.
Put it on.
Yeah.
Honestly, anybody that follows, if you look at my Instagram, go to the very first videos. Oh my gosh, those are horrible. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It takes time. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you would talk about that. Sean talks about that. All these people talk about this. We go to all these events. We do all this stuff. That's 1% of what the market's doing. Mm-hmm. The other 99% of the people aren't doing that. They aren't growing. They aren't learning that. So I think you take content to a whole nother level. And it's fun. I think content is enjoyable because you get to take your personality and showcase it. 80+% of the people that see my content do not follow me.
Are you serious?
Yes.
How do you know this?
Analytics.
I'm sure it's in insights somewhere.
It's all in the insights, yeah. And you can probably Fabio show you. But
yeah,
the main thing with that is that means that there are eyes seeing you. You have no idea that are watching you.
Yeah.
And you're making impact on people's lives that you have no clue. And when those days suck, and when you're like, I don't want to post, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, that's usually, again, do it. That's usually when you need to most do it, because there's someone else that has the exact same thought, and they're by no means going to hit that button, hit that post, dial the phone number. And it's just staying in touch with people in a different capacity. And you touch on a point, I want to say this on the branding piece of being nice. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest things is a lot of my business partners are female. I'm a large male dude, right? So that could come off very aggressive at times, right? Hey, he's a big dude. But no, my brand surrounds a bear, right? So that comes back to my grandfather, which is a big story too. He died 6 months to the day before I was born.
Oh my gosh.
And so I wanted that brand to be me. And everybody thinks of a bear, kind of big, but at the same time, they're big, but they're flipping dorky.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen a bear cub just flopping around, climbing up a tree? They're dumb sometimes. Yeah. You're just like, that's so cute and so stupid at the same time. Why, but the thing about that is I've asked a lot of my business partners, I'm like, hey, what is my brand come off to you?
What was it going to be before? What was it going to be before? You were going to do something different. I remember do you remember what it was? It was something else.
I wasn't looking at the lending giant, but I mean, most of these responses have been you're like a big brother. Yeah. So now I'm like, okay, it works. But originally I was like, I want it to be like a tree, something large. I wanted to something big. So I was like, I'm not an average size. So I was like, it's a big thing, but it was going to be a tree. It was going to be I think at one point I had the giant lender, all these things. Yeah. And one of my best friends is one of my best referral partners as well. He was like, dude, what about the lending giant? I was like, holy shit.
So good.
Works.
It's so good. It works. It does. It does. I mean, it just, but I think you're right. I think that, the brand, and if you guys look up the lending giant on Instagram, And you'll be able to see, I'm sure it's somewhere where you actually have the actual logo of it, and it looks legit. It looks like, everything you're describing. But then you're right. When you think of it from that perspective, it follows suit, and it aligns with what your personality is. And I will say that you have built trust in the industry as, somebody who people engage with. So let me ask about that, Bryce. Because I'm horrible at this, and I want to get better. I want to be better, right? And this is essentially, I'm always looking for ways to not just be better, but also a better person. And I think, what is your process by which you engage on social media? Like, is this something that you carve out, or it's just it's a reflex? Because everybody I talk to, a lot of people that we know the same person, they're like, we're talking on DMs, I already know him. You've even texted me like, hey dude, this guy says he's talking to you. I'm like, I talk to everybody. And you're like, but they know you too. So we're doing the same. But what do you do to engage? Because for the people you're talking to, it's not like you're recruiting them. It's not like you're saying, hey, come over and work with me at Loan Depot. You're just making friends with other lenders. You sit down and spend time with other lenders and get nothing out of it. So talk to me about the why and what's your process for engagement.
I think for engagement, for me, it is pretty natural. Like I have content blocks for recording. Okay. But in regards of engagement, it's just part of life, because I think that in reality, that is my business. It is engagement. It is being there as a resource for people, whatever place they are. It doesn't really matter. So
yeah, but so what? Are you sitting down, drinking your coffee, at your desk? You got a minute that you can do, but are you just in constant communication? Like, what do your DMs look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely like constantly messaging people. Yeah. I stay engaged with people. If you post something I like, I speak in a lot of emojis also, because nobody has time. I talk text a lot, or like voice message. So my realtor partners that have the green bubble, we can't do that. Yeah. But I think it's an iPhone. It's staying in touch with people because they're trying to share something. Whatever they're posting, whatever they're commenting on, whatever they're putting their name and brand on, then obviously like that's something that interests them. Okay. So if I can go like, comment, and share or engage with something that you're putting out, then one, from the algorithm, if it's an agent or partner or financial advisor, somebody I'm trying to connect with, I'll start showing up in their feeds. Yep. They'll stay in my feeds. Now there's people that fall off all the time. I follow a couple thousand people, got almost 4,000 followers. So it's like Instagram is probably my primary platform.
All organic. That. You haven't bought
I've never paid for a single follower.
How do you feel about buying followers?
Don't do it. Okay. Why? Yeah. First of all, you might have engagement in the sense of likes, follows, shares, but I know that if I get 8 shares or 50 shares, it's because people saw it, read it, it hit with them, 100%. And they wanted to put it out to their people.
I'm obsessed with this right now. Like I want to figure out how to get to, 25,000, right? Like just true, I'm testing so many things, but the one thing that I think is where it's working for you is the engagement and how you do that. How many realtors have you connected with in a face-to-face meeting because it started with content? Do you have an idea? Is it a lot? Is it a little?
Well, I can tell you right now, 90% of my business came from some form of real estate relationship through content.
Through content.
Something.
100. You like them. You said, hey, your stuff is good. Because even before you got here, to Arizona, I remember you posting a story about a realtor, and I very seldomly do realtor podcasts because that's not necessarily my audience in my 100%. Opinion, but when I see somebody that's doing something very different than the industry, then I want to talk to them. And the guy's name was Blake Clark, and you had posted something from him, and then somehow I thought that was really cool. I thought that was wise of you to do that, but then I was thinking about the reasoning why you did it, right? Like, and I'm pessimistic like this, like this dude's trying to get business. But no, that wasn't what you were doing. What you were doing was you liked the content 100%. And you thought it was shareable. And you said the rest of the world needs to see this. And I think that's what people don't understand about you is that there's no hidden agenda. Nope. You're just nice.
right? I mean, you're referencing like the Ransom Hand, Kate and Candace, right? Like they're awesome people, but they're raw and real. And so I think that's one of those things where it's just like, I just want people to see the good, bad, and honestly ugly of what goes on and what's happening. The real estate industry, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important industries in the world, in the US at least. We'll just leave it there. Because one, 80+% of all middle class Americans create wealth through real estate.
Okay.
One. Two, like we just closed on our first house, right? It's a crazy
Oh, and
feeling.
you got murdered on this too. Like, I'm so sorry,
man. Bro. It was a brutal process.
Let's talk about that. let's talk about this. You're in the business, and you're not immune to getting hosed, absolutely hosed on a deal.
No, I mean, look, we went a contract in May of 2021, flew out, or like, I've always had a pull for me for Arizona. So I told Lauren, hey, look, I want to go to Texas, Arizona. She was like, well, not Texas. It's way too far. I can't commute back. She works in Napa. She works in wine, right there. So I think
wine
it's
right here. Look at this. I mean, this is I'm showing a bottle of Etude Pinot Noir out of what is that, Saint Rita?
Yeah,
Santa Rita. Santa Rita. What is it?
It's honestly, I'd slaughter just like you, Lauren.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but Pinot Noir is my drink. But yeah, so you got a wife in wine.
Yeah.
So she has to be close to Napa, right? So you pick Arizona.
Need to have the ability. I mean,
and you want to have a pool.
Hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah. It's 2.5 hours for her to really get on a plane, land, and get up to her office.
Okay.
So if she has to be there in an emergency, she can be there. A lot of my business is still in California, so I'll be going back every now and then. And I think it's just one of those things. So I think for me, it's just sharing the content. I think back to what we were talking about with like Blake and sharing this. Yeah, there's no hidden agenda, because I genuinely, and this came recent, genuinely give a shit about people. And if there is a human idol that I have on this planet, it's Ed Milet.
Yeah.
Because of what he genuinely loves people.
Yeah.
And for me, I genuinely have the same feeling. And so when we had the Ford event, but then we go back to February, Breakthrough, the event you put on, because of the first Ford event last year, that event changed my life. And it changed however other many people were there, a few hundred, right?
125.
And so the thing with that was you got to see speakers put information, content, ideas. But one of the biggest speakers for me was Shay.
Yeah.
Because she was just like, just be you, down to the core. And so it was fine. I think that event made me realize I can just allow myself to be me on every capacity. And so that was fun, and it's been a journey. And
let's think about that. I mean, and I'm going to come back to your new build story in a second, but if you think about where we were and how we've evolved since me walking into Ford event the first year, and for those of you that are listening that have no idea what we're talking about, the industry events used to be the Todd Duncan event every year, and it's in Palm Springs, and everybody migrates there into the desert, and you hear people who are in the business and famous speakers come out and talk about their business, and these are really good events. And then there's a few that were in there was a mastermind event that was in Vegas, but then Neil Dingra came up with this Ford event where it was really about marketing and content. Yeah. And then I got super inspired by it and was like, I'm taking it to Phoenix. Yeah. We're going to figure it out. And Alec Hansen and I, along with, this is awesome. Along with, no, you're good. Just go up. Okay. This is so funny. He lowered the desk. We have a desk that goes up and down. He lowered it, but this is awesome. And Devin was somebody that we had worked with, helped us put together this amazing event. But if you think about where we were, we brought in all these people that can help you with content. We pulled from, I wanted to pull everybody, all my heroes, if you will, from, we were coming out of COVID, like stay at home, right? This is like the first event.
Yep.
After being locked down. I think it had to be the one in Phoenix. It had to be the first. And we brought in all the people that mattered. We brought in a YouTuber, Christina Smallhorn, Shay Rowbottom, who was just crushing it on LinkedIn. And then who else do we have? We had
Todd Duncan.
Todd Duncan, who was just amazing to come in and kind of bring it all together. We had anyway, so we had these really great people that were coming in. And to think about what happened after that, right? So what did that do for you, like coming out of those events? And then you now have this next Forward event that happened this year. Every time you go to one of these, it's like a jolt. And then you look back and you're like, I've evolved since then. So how have you evolved since starting those journeys? And what changed with your content?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I tried to make it perfect before, I would say, the breakthrough event. And then it was just be you. And I mean, and literally in the moment, speaking even at that event, just kind of sharing what was going on, like like I felt it legitimately down, like kind of my core. I mean, it's hard to kind of explain, but you're so pushed and moved by that fact. And I think it's so important, and so this whole year has been a lot of really deep development for me. Had some health stuff, so I've been really focused on that. Lost like 30 pounds, like I keep doing all that. And so it was like, how do I continue just to be better in everything? So Absolutely. The first event just, I think, gave me the okay to be me.
There you go. It's crazy to think about the guy who was walking around before that event that didn't think it was okay to be himself. Why was that? Why do you think that was?
Because social media just shows everything. It's a freaking facade half the time. And so I think the pages that are the biggest, the pages that make the biggest impact, the people that make the biggest impact for that matter, are the people that are just them. They share who they are. You're going to attract who and what you want to attract. And if somebody is not into it, not into you, not an opportunity, I'm cool with that. And I hadn't made that decision until that event. I made that decision after. I said, I'm cool with just attracting who I'm supposed to attract, who God put me on this planet to make an impact on.
There you go.
That's what that event made me okay with. And so a lot of the content was just real and just putting it out there. And I've never really paid for a lot of help on content or ideas. And so I knew I was one of the few that was doing it previously where I was. And then coming out here, I was like, man, there are people doing this at such a higher level. It showed me how big this industry actually could be. Just connecting with tons of these massive influencers.
Yes.
And so I think it was 4 or 5 months ago, someone made the comment, like posted it. I met up with her for lunch. We had coffee, everything. She's great. She's a killer powerhouse team out in the Bay Area. And
was it a realtor?
It was a realtor, yeah. And she had said, she shared mine. She said, man, it was amazing to connect with another big time influencer in this market. And I was like, I never thought of myself as an influencer.
But you are.
And then I started to see everything I do is because I want to influence people.
There you go. But who, I mean, think about like our industry. There's maybe 10, 20 people that are truly influencing in an industry. And you start to realize how small the industry really is. I mean, when you come into it, you're like, there's people all over the country doing this, right? But there's very, very few. And the ones that matter all migrated to Vegas last week or last month, to come together, and they all knew who you were, right? So so if you were questioning whether you're an influencer, you absolutely are, and I think that's where, it's so important, because in the beginning, you won't necessarily see the impact of your content. You're not going to necessarily get a deal from your content. You're not going to, look in your DMs and it's like, hey, I'm buying a home tomorrow. Be my lender. That's not why you do this.
No.
But what happens through engagement and through putting out content is that when you do connect with somebody and they have seen your content, your now chances of getting business and connecting skyrockets because they feel like they know you, even though they don't know you.
Well, I think that's the thing. It's not a matter of, at this point, it's not a matter of what you know. It's not about who know you. It's who knows you.
Yes. Amazing. That is 100% true. And I will say this, you got to be a good lender. I mean, you have 100%. To be a good lender to be in this business. You cannot fake it. I see people that are posting content and I'll watch it and I'll be like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like they have taken that and just ripped it off from somebody else.
100%.
And I can tell by the way that they're talking about it that they don't know. Lending. And you take great pride in that. And so to watch you build content on how you help people is hugely important. But the people that are building content and the people that know this business are going to be the people that win. Correct. I do not believe that you can sustain in this business without a marketing, plan and without a brand. Would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can.
Okay.
But it's not going to be easy. So I do generally, I don't think there's another route for me other than a brand. And whether that's personal or the lending giant, right? And I got a team behind me. That's the thing too, is you're, as a loan officer, I mean, you can go chase rate, other companies, done that. You can go chase more money, done that. I've done all the things that every lender thinks that they want. And then when you actually come down and say, and one of my best friends, Mindy, asked this question. She said, what do you need to succeed? And when I sat down and actually broke that down, I was like, everything that I have with my team at Loan Depot. Every single piece that I needed to be successful was here. In the end, you can go to some big bank. They're going to lose tons of money to give you the lowest rate. I get that. If that's the type of client, I'll do my best and I'll help educate you. And if at the end you end up doing that, that happens. But if you legitimately want advice, someone to be there by your side, to be an advisor, to legitimately build a plan, and we don't just build the loan plan. And so it was the last few months, we were trying to figure out how do we really showcase how people can be from nothing to multi-millionaires in 10 years by simply buying one piece of real estate. Or how's the strategy of not doing a price reduction? What about this strategy? What about that strategy? So Sean actually helped me build this system out, and I was able to actually articulate it. And so it was the thrive in a shifting market conversation that we were talking about. Everyone's talking about it right now. But when you finally put that in numbers, I was like, we can help somebody go from nothing to $500,000 net worth in as little as 5 years with the right plan. And so that's what I want people to understand. And there's so many different nuances and whys. I want to understand, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to buy a home? What does it mean to you? And let's build around that.
So you mentioned Sean had helped you with this. Sean Uehara is a branch manager that's in Las Vegas. Yeah. He doesn't have anything to do with you, other than you call him and ask him questions and he answers them, and you guys have created a relationship, correct? So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's where I think value proposition comes in from, especially right now in this industry, and having support. I'm in talks with right now 3 people who work at a brokerage that's pretty popular in Arizona, and I'm surprised. I usually stay away from brokers because brokers are better. Or so they say they are. And so I've kind of just look, that's the mantra. Yeah. What it did, it created a barrier of entry that, I'm not going to talk to them. Right. And then what happened is they started to come to us. And I always say, hey, you're in a different model than we are. And these are guys that are doing 20 million. This isn't I'm doing 3 million a year. These are guys that are doing $20 million.
It's a business.
And I'm saying, okay, why do you want to make that move? And they all have various reasons, but they all kind of boil down to one thing. And that's, their support and being able to get things done. So I'll ask you this question, because you were at Loan Depot in Northern California. You left to go be a broker at a time where we all start getting price pressure, especially in Northern California, because that clientele is a very different type of clientele. And then you decided, you called me one day and you said, hey, I'm moving to Arizona. I want to leave the brokerage and come back to Loan Depot. And we made a deal and it all made sense, and we got you back in, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened for the branch that you're in, as well as, just getting you back in our sphere. Because we learned so much from you. But now my question is are brokers really better? And from your perspective, you're living through it. And by the way, I used to be a broker, so I'll I can share my thoughts on it, but I am curious from your perspective, what you went through and why you came back to retail.
Yeah, I think, and it is a model too. It does, literally, brokers are better. There's a Facebook page. There's a whole marketing thing around it. And I don't think that it's a bad route for some people.
Gotcha.
And I think one of the biggest things was, for me, it was support. And, you know, and still appreciate the broker, know him, think he's a great dude. And he's built something that's crazy awesome. Yep. And that's why I was like, well, I like what he's built. I want to go be a part of that. And so that was where my initial transition was. But I was also like, well, this is what I have. This is my support here. Here's what my assistant does. Like, here's the CRM. Here's everything that I have on the back end. Yeah. Oh yeah. We could do that. And then when it got into some of those nitty gritties or the hairy moments or the like, hey, I need this extra support, or, you know, when I had the comment one time, hey, do you mind reaching out? I'm in the middle of the X, Y, and Z call with a client or something, whatever it was. And the response to me back was, unfortunately, that's not my client. I'm not going to tell them that.
Oh, wow.
And that's just not the mentality here.
Yeah.
Myself, my teammate, my processors, like other loan officers, if you need them.
I would call your client if you need. Like, that's the way you got to do that, because that client's my client, right? Yeah. Like we're in the same
boat, or so you would think. So I think the biggest thing is, unless you're willing to put all your time, all your money, and all the risk into building the support system that just dominates, that's the only reason. So in my opinion, you need 6 figures to build the support system you need in the broker space correctly, minimum.
There you go. Yeah. So from your perspective, you know, what you got back here, right? So you kind of went through, and I remember you had a vision in your mind of what you wanted it to work like you had, you know, you had a team that you wanted to bring, you had kind of a vision, and then we kind of flipped the script on you. We're like, hey, just check, because we knew we were going into a different market. And I was 100%. Like, look, here's the deal, man. I don't want you to be in a place where the market shifts and you're going to regret, you know, this, but let me sink you into this team. And then if you are unhappy, then we'll figure it out from there. And you decided, I mean, you came in, and then what has that been like since then? You know, in terms of, did we live up to our expectation? And by the way, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you tell me no, but I'm curious, like, to see your journey. Like, you got here, what has it been like?
Coming back to Lindy Bill was the best thing I've ever done. And I think for me, it was exactly that. I was like, hey, I got this idea. I'm going to come in and ask for the things. Like, I felt aggressive at the time. Lauren's like, you're just asking for what you need to be successful. And I was like, okay. You know, and so she's a little bit more direct like that than I would be. Yeah. And so I think you were like, here's what I'm thinking for you. And I think this is the best thing. And I do this too. I can see someone's success more than they can see it from themselves. You do that for people. And that was really, really attractive to me as a person, as a man, and just as a loan officer. And so I think when I came back to that, you presented, here's this guy, Eli. He's awesome. He's epic. You got one of the best branch managers. Here's Josh. Here's all these people. You have a ton of opportunity and resources. And honestly, that's my family now. Yeah. And so, like, I mean, Eli and I, Devin, like, I've stayed at their house when I visited before we moved. Like, literally, it's like having a big little brother now.
It is crazy because, like, I remember you telling me, like, I'm staying at their house. I was like, you guys got really close really fast. Like, but that's just like the type of people you both are. And when I put you together, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it from that aspect. Right. I think chemistry is everything. And you guys, I just knew you guys would be fine from that perspective. I was thinking more skill set and what you needed and what we were willing to do and how we built a model on bringing somebody in who needs support and how we can help, right? We developed it. We studied it. We try to do so much work around it. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, now does it work? Because if that chemistry, everything else lines up, but the chemistry doesn't work, 100%, then nothing works, right? It's like a processor. If you don't have chemistry, it's never going to work. But I never got that. I never had that worry with you, other than you had a preconceived notion on what this was. You had a vision of what it was going to be. 100%. And I was suggesting to go a different route. And what did that work out?
100%. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for that was, through content, through social media, through 2-ish interactions, we had built trust. Yes. And so I believed when you said, I think this is best for you, I said, all right, I'll believe that. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was that there was so much trust there. and I know the leadership that I'm following. And yeah, I mean, for me, passion is the leadership, the development, stuff like that. So I love that piece. So it's worked out immensely. There's some big long-term goals that Eli and I have built together now. What we want to develop, you know, for him, for his family, for me, for my family, and for what we want to build as a team. So the thing about that you said skill set was, now I can do the back end. I can do processing. I can do that. I can get really granular when I need to. Ask Lauren, right? Like, I can be so detailed and so good in my job. She's like, but you can't put your damn socks away, right? So I'm like, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
But, so I think I love the relationship piece.
Yeah.
And Eli does too. Yeah. But he gets legitimate joy out of those checks on the box of the things getting done.
Yes.
I do not.
I can care less.
I do not care about the task list, even though I need to do that better. I get it. But I want to be out there building relationships,
man. If I'm typing, I'm not happy. No. If I am typing, I am not happy. I need to be with people. I need to be doing this. This is what it's all about. And then you feel you got to spend some money to get some people to do the things that you know how to do that aren't scalable for your business. And I think that a lot of people sometimes hire it out before they understand it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very critical that you've done that. You say, I understand this, but this is not the best use of my time. So 100%. I'm going to pay the money to have somebody else do it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at the big banks, I was at one of the big banks, and it was 2019. That was my first biggest year. I did 36 million. That's no assistant. That's real direct processor. Yeah. That's everything yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
You were doing about that at a broker. That's why I was like, dude, this dude's doing this much. You don't see people at brokers doing that big a volume. And because there's so much pain that might come along with that, right? When you're trying to do it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know? And I kept like, are you cool? Do you sure you want to come back to retail? Because it's a very different model.
Yep.
But I think your best chance of not just growth and helping people and connecting with people is going to be here. And by the way, Bryce, you know, you're going to be a leader here. You're going to continue to grow. And before you know it, if you fast forward, you'll have a team of people around you that are looking you for development, and you're going to be able to do it because you've done the hard work. You built the brand, and now you can take it to the streets and teach other people how to do it. And there's a slew of millennials that are going to join this industry, and we're going to need people like you that have the patience. You know, like, you know, the branch managers we have here, they're the most patient people in the world on what they're willing to do to help people. Yeah. And so I can't wait to see you get into that realm. But dude, I got to tell you, you being here today means a lot to me. I appreciate the time that you've given and shared your story. For those of you that are listening, look up The Lending Giant and follow him and check out his content. Instagram, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook. Bryce Fransen is his name. Anything else you want to give out before we drop?
Honestly, man, I just appreciate it. I think the biggest thing right now is just the lights went out for everybody. Renee says this, right? Renee Rodriguez. He says the light went out for everybody. So you can choose to wander around in the dark and see what happens, right? Or you can be the person that puts on the light bulb, that turns on the flashlight. I think right now, everyone needs to focus on being that flashlight.
Yes.
If you focus on being that flashlight, you're going to come out on the other end better, and you're going to have better opportunities to be successful as a loan officer, to buy a house as a client, to make it as a real estate agent. Don't let the circumstances control how your mentality is.
100%. 100%. Great job, bro. Thank you so much, man. This was really good.
Thanks, brother.
I appreciate you being on today.
Appreciate it.
All right, brother.